I think it's fair to say the only rivalry to the debate of whether Allan Saint-Maximin is good or if he's not good and should he be sold or should he be kept in the Newcastle supporting community is probably whether you prefer a steak bake or a corned beef pasty. It's constantly talked about on away buses, at the Gallagher end, in the Strawberry pub before matches, and it's going to continue happening. And now that the transfer window's here, we don't know whether Allan Saint-Maximin is being considered for sale by the hierarchy at Newcastle, but we can continue to speculate. So on this video, I'm going to talk about why maybe Newcastle would potentially explore the option of selling Saint-Maximin and whether I think they should explore the option to sell Saint-Maximin. So do us a favour, Newcastle fans, if you are new to Black and White Banter and don't know what to do by now, stick around. Welcome back to Black White Banter, you absolutely lovely Newcastle fans. When I say welcome back, I only mean that if you are a subscriber or you've managed to watch one of my videos randomly in the past. If you have, and you haven't clicked the subscribe button, why? I don't like you. Is it because of my face? Is it because of my voice? I don't know. But before I get into this video, drop down and give us a like, regardless. One of them takes you no effort but means a lot to me and gets this video to more people. Wouldn't that be nice? And it's nice to be nice. And if you like my opinion by the end of this video, whack that subscribe. I have, in the last 48 hours, just to update, finally, and I've been meaning to do it since April when I got my match tickets, I have finally booked my flights to America. Yeah, I will be there for the Premier League series in what is basically 2 weeks today. 2 weeks today, I will be going to bed, getting ready to get to Newcastle Airport and head over to New York City, baby. So I will be over there. I've met the New York Supporters Club many times. I've met the Vegas Supporters Club. I've met the Miami Supporters Club. I've got a strong affiliation with America because I've worked over there for lots of consecutive years. I love the country and that's why I couldn't miss this tour. I am going to be there as a fan first and a content creator second. I'm going to have a fucking right good time. And if you're an American watching this video and you are going to any of the games in Philadelphia, Atlanta or New York and you want to show me a good time and a good night on the tiles and just have a bit banter, some what will be very poor pints of lager, I've got no doubt, because you Americans do not do lager well from the tap, but we'll have some Jaeger bombs and we'll have a good bit of Black and White Banter, so let me know. But I can't wait to get over there and there'll be lots of content coming. Don't know how fresh I will be on some of that content because it is going to be my holiday for the year and I am going to fucking enjoy every moment, so you don't want to miss that. And if you haven't already, get us across all social media, Black and White Banter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and now I'm on Threads. I'm down with the kids. I am on Threads, the Instagram's version of Twitter. Didn't take me long to get amongst it. I am Mr. Technology. I haven't got a fucking clue how it works. But hey, I am on Threads now, so get us on there. So, the video started. You know what the topic of this one is going to be. Now, before I get into this, I am not starting this video by saying Newcastle are about to sell Saint-Maximin. I'm not speculating anything. I'm not claiming that it's in the pipeline. All I am doing this video on is a topic and a conversation, and I've actually seen another YouTube channel, one of my favourites, True Faith, do a video on Saint-Maximin and how important pre-season and whatnot is going to be for the player, etc, etc. And that is because it's a hot topic. I posted on TikTok last night a video talking about the similar topic of Allan Saint-Maximin and whether the club might sell or keep. And I asked people's opinions in the TikTok comments on what they think we should do with the player this summer. And it was mixed. And it just tells me everything I already knew. It was a case of sell, keep, too injury prone, sell, not even a debate, keep. It was so mixed all the way down. And that is exactly where our fan base is. Now, my opinion on the player, before we get into where I think the club might be, the hierarchy might be going into this transfer window. I am not a Saint-Maximin fanboy, and I think anyone who watches my videos regular knows that I'm not. And I know he has them quarters, and flair players like Saint-Maximin who can do things that not many footballers in Europe can do with a football, can take players on and can entertain, which is why we go to football matches. They will always attract fanboys and girls. Sorry, I'm not being gender specific there. Fanboys and girls. And he has loads. He has absolutely plenty. I'm not in that club, and the reason I don't have that strong affiliation with Saint-Maximin as a flair player compared to previous ones of the past is I just don't think Saint-Maximin, for me, as a fan who goes week in, week out, has created enough memorable moments to have a strong, I want to say, emotional attachment, because that's what we do to footballers in our club, don't we? I don't have that with him. I compare Saint-Maximin as a flair player in my lifetime to someone like Laurent Robert. And yes, before anyone says it, they were two different players of two very different eras. Robert played through successful times under Bobby Robson. Really successful times in terms of how good our side was, and we challenged for titles, Champions League. I understand that. And Saint-Maximin has had to put up with Brucey ball, and he did so well to help us stay up from relegation under Steve Bruce, which I'll always be grateful to him for. But when he's had consistent game time across his whole career now at Newcastle, which is getting on a bit now, 4 years, it is pushing on. I just don't think he's contributed enough memorable moments. And I look at his goal record and his assist record, and that kind of adds up to that. Yes, we've seen him take on players for fun. Yes, we've seen him pull out some fancy tricks. Yes, we've seen him have Pep Guardiola on his hands and knees on the touchline against Man City last year. And we all know what he's capable of. But because I've never seen that consistency in the player, and then as we've moved into Eddie Howe's system, I've never felt like he's truly fit that system in how Eddie Howe likes to play, from the back four all the way through to the strikers. I don't have that strong connection to him. That being said, do I want, on a personal level, Allan Saint-Maximin to be sold? No, I don't. I think going into next season, Saint-Maximin, for all the work he's put in, there is the strong argument that he deserves a year in the Champions League. He's a player who's probably dreamt of this since he was a kid. He's kept us up from relegation. He gives us something going into those huge European nights and the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup and the Premier League. Something totally different. There is not many clubs in the Premier League or European football in the top leagues who have an option, potentially just off the bench even, like Allan Saint-Maximin. It's totally different. He can drag defenders away and open up space in the centre. You know, if you go one defender up against Saint-Maximin on that side, if you haven't done your homework on him and you just go 1 versus 1, I'm probably going to back him, depending on who the defender is. And there's not many out there who I've seen being able to properly stop him in a one-on-one situation. Is he going to try things that don't work? Of course. And I think that gets me onto my point of why he maybe has that disliking in the stands, that disliking from Newcastle fans. I think he's a new generational player. I still think the older, and I could be wrong on this is just my opinion, and I like to constantly clarify that. I think the older Newcastle fan is not used to a player doing fancy tricks, fancy flicks, staying down a little bit longer than he needs to when he gets knocked onto the floor off the ball like Allan Saint-Maximin does. The headbands, the Gucci, there's a lot of different attachments to a player like him. He's very glam, if you want to look at it that way. That does not fit a model of what Newcastle fans have known as football's evolved from like the 60s, 70s, 80s. So I understand that. But also, just from a footballing point of view, because of that lack of assists and goals, and let's face it, Saint-Maximin does not have a good shot on him. Anyone who tells me that he does, I don't know what Newcastle team you've been watching, he doesn't. I think just get a little bit frustrated with him. They'd rather see someone who maybe did play the safer pass but contributed more because of that, like your Willocks and your Joe Lintons when they've slotted on that left-hand side for Newcastle last season under Eddie Howe. So I understand the frustration from fans who are just constantly of the opinion of get rid. Now, going into what I think is an interesting transfer window, we've already splashed 55 million on the Italian stallion Tonali. Wow, what a signing. I've already talked about that. That was a huge start to this window, but none of us know as it stands, because Newcastle keep the cards so close to the chest. The Athletic have already reported that the Barella deal from Inter Milan was never happening. It was a smoke screen to actually send the journalists and the fans away from who they were actually bringing in, and they're going to continue doing that with certain news reporters. They are going to get them to break basically a fake story and then go after the player they actually want. So that apparently there was never any interest in Barella. So that tells me everything about what the strategy is with regards to those press releases and the transfer links. So if YouTubers who do a constant transfer video every day, if you're watching this, which you probably is not, just pack it in, because the club are actually giving you clickbait. They are giving you fake stories. So you'll just jump off it. I know it gets you views and clicks, but my God, if you're anything like me watching this video, I get sick of watching a video about one journalist or one media reporter on Twitter who's done a story about a player and suddenly he gets a full 10-minute video of whether we should sign him or not. But we don't know what the transfer budget is. Craig Hope reported in the summer that it was just before the window opened for the Daily Mail that it was 75 million, and Eddie Howe had been informed of that. Again, that might be a very smart smokescreen because it certainly, with 55 of that gone, does not look like 75 million. So I'm looking at it from a perspective of Eddie Howe. I do not think that Eddie Howe, and I've said this since day dot, is fully, and I emphasise the word fully, convinced by Allan Saint-Maximin and his performances for Newcastle and how he fits into his system, and he's trusting him in a player at both ends of the pitch. Allan Saint-Maximin will sacrifice possession more than he will keep it in a football match, generally speaking, because he does try things, and that's what you want from a flair player. I think Maximin's trying to adapt his game to suit Eddie Howe. I've seen a change in him, how he releases the ball faster. But when you take that aspect of him try and brave things away from a player like Maximin, I don't know whether you get the same player, and you don't necessarily want that. It's almost like you are who you are and stand by that. Like I'm like a father to a son sort of speech, but that's what I feel like when I see Maximin not making smarter decisions. That's good, but constantly releasing the ball because he feels like that's what he has to do because that fits into this system a little bit better under Eddie Howe's instruction, rather than looking at the man in front of him and thinking, I can fucking have you. That's what we know Maximin can do. So I don't think Eddie Howe's fully convinced on him. I don't. Now, I look at Newcastle's squad going into this window and what sellable assets there are to generate income that could be splurged and generated back into our transfer spend. Fraser, peanuts. Be lucky to get him Premier League move, but probably go to the Championship. Carl Darlow, the goalkeeper, it's been talked about 5 million. There's lots of teams sniffing around him. Jeff Hendrick, the Irish Perlo. You know, think what you want of him. Maybe you want to see Hendrick back in the team for the Champions League campaign. If you do, wow. But yeah, on a more serious note, Jeff Hendrick, again, probably his Championship. I think he did okay at Reading last season. I didn't track him that much, him and Andy Carroll. You're probably talking 3, 4, 5 million. Manquillo, there's talk about letting him go for a free out of a goodwill gesture because he's been such a good servant to our club. All of these players are not generating much money even on a whole to spend back on the team. So if Eddie Howe's transfer budget is not enough to generate enough money to make our squad stronger, and I've got no doubts about it, Eddie Howe wants a left back. He maybe wants another centre back to go along with Shea, who's maybe got one more strong season in the older he's getting. Maybe 2. That's maybe a bit harsh on Shea, who I thought was wonderful last season. Maybe 2 seasons. Trippier's not getting any younger, and we've been linked with obviously fullbacks. He's probably got 1 to 2 seasons in him. Certainly as a captain, the way Trippier likes to bomb back and forward, his legs are getting a bit older now. Then you've got a defensive midfielder, because I don't think Tonali is that. You've got a central attacking midfielder with the James Maddisons and the Szoboszlai links that we've had all summer. Then you've got a forward because Callum Wilson's injury prone, he's in his 30s. There are so many places that I would love to strengthen this Newcastle team going into a Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Premier League campaign where the games are just going to be so demanding that if the budget does not allow us to strengthen, and when I say strengthen, not just make up the numbers, actually sign quality that improves us and allows us to rotate with still a decent level of quality in that starting 11, then Allan Saint-Maximin to me poses one of the only players who is not consistently starting for Eddie Howe, who you could look at and maybe get 25 to 35 million pound. I'm not going to say 40, 50, 60. Anyone who thinks Maximin, based off his performances in the last year and a half, is worth that just off talent alone, I disagree. I really do. I think he's somewhere between that 25 to 35 mark in the current market, because he's only 26. He's got his best years ahead of him. But if that money got pumped straight back in that scenario, and it's all hypothetical, Eddie Howe has a big decision to make. And I base that off the fact that I do not think Eddie Howe has full faith in the player. So would I, if for example the transfer budget was 80 million, so that only leaves us with 35 to 25, God, that's terrible maths, 25 to play with after the Tonali signing, would I look to sell Maximin to generate more money to maybe sign 2 good players, two £30 million players to strengthen our squad. Yes, I would. And that is not me saying that. And I want to go back to what I said earlier in this video. I like Saint-Maximin. I've only ever wanted him to do well, but he does frustrate me. And don't forget, Newcastle fans, his injury record over his career at Newcastle has not been great at all. And when injury records are consistently bad, I don't see that changing overnight. There is some issue there. He got a good run of games at the end of last season and then got injured again. And I don't necessarily see that changing. Pre-season, as was said on another Newcastle YouTube video, is huge for him. I think it's a masterstroke that we have a pre-season campaign where we are playing the Chelseas, the Brightons over in America, which I cannot wait to watch over there. But that's a masterstroke because that's really good quality opposition across a week period. And then put in another tournament that I've got no doubt St James's Park will be hosting. We've got Rangers. We've got a good pre-season ahead of us. And Allan Saint-Maximin really needs to force his way in Eddie Howe's plans in that time. Now, on the flip side of that, would Saint-Maximin be happy with a place on the bench all season? I'm not sure. And I genuinely believe that he may have to settle for that. He's a big-time player. And I look at, I think I visualise in my head Borussia Dortmund away in the Champions League. Allan Saint-Maximin coming on in the 60th minute with us 1-0 down and absolutely fucking terrorising that right back in Germany and silencing that yellow wall in Dortmund. I mean, what a mouth-watering thought aside from anything else. But I do think he has a part to play. But if we are in a position where we do not have endless amounts of cash, I think Eddie Howe may entertain the idea of seeing what market value could be attached to Saint-Maximin's head. In an ideal world, I hope Eddie Howe, which a lot of Newcastle fans think as maybe he's got 150, 160 million to play with and they're just keeping the cards close to the chest in this window. I've got no doubts about the business isn't done. But for me, Allan Saint-Maximin, if he stays, wonderful. If he's sold to make our squad depth much better going into this season, I am not someone personally who would cry about it. So, Newcastle fans, the big debate, and I'm hoping I get a lot of comments on this as I did on TikTok. Allan Saint-Maximin, in the scenario that we may have a limited transfer budget after the Tonali signing, are you keeping him or are you selling him? Let me know in the comments. It's all hypothetical. I'm not speculating that this is a thing, that Newcastle are even considering it, but this is a debate that has been firing for ages now, and I want to try and put a little bit of lighter fluid on it to blow it up a bit further and find out what you guys think. If you've liked this video and you've liked my opinions and you do want to see Black and White Banter take over the United States, drop down, whack us a little subscribe, give us a little likey-loo, and I'll see you, hopefully, for another couple of videos before this week's out. Maybe on some breaking transfer news. Who knows with this amazing football club? Who knows? But look after yourselves in the meantime, and I'll see you on the next one. Away the lads!